Hello and welcome to another episode of Not Your Pendeja. I'm your host, Cristalina. This is going to be a part 2 for relationships and boundaries. Last week we left on the incident. It wasn't something for me to describe as I had to relive what occurred as I shared it with you. Honestly, to say the least, it was a reminder of what I wouldn't want to experience again. Sure, the red flags are easier to see now that I left, but they weren't easy to see when I was living it. Certain things were clear, while others were just simply masked. While I was hoping to see the good in this person, I wanted to help them overcome their vices. I was promised change so often that I held on to the glimmer of hope. And honestly, it never made its appearance. His struggles became my struggles, simply because I wanted to fix what was broken inside of him. I wanted to be the hero and fix something that I had no idea on fixing. I was convinced that I was the key to make him a better man. Truth be told, I was only being manipulated. While I was being spoon-fed lies and fictional storylines, I held on strong and I put all of my trust into him. After he was released from jail, he came back. Not at all because I called him, but he had nowhere else to go. He called me while he was in county, and I answered. But in my mind, I wanted to believe that he was being honest with me and willing to change. You see, I was alone. I had a 6-month-old child and I had no family support. When my family heard about the situation, I was told that I needed to get away, but I had nowhere to go. He would find me. He arrived and apologized for his mistake. I wasn't completely stupid. I didn't believe him. A part of me wanted to know why, but his responses always went along the lines of, I don't know, because I was drunk, or because I was stupid. I loved this man. He was all I knew, and I didn't want to fail my child, but here I was. I was taking back my abuser because he created a trauma bond. He took my love for him and our family and used it to benefit him. He was a puppet master, and I was the puppet. I fell for his little game. Blindly, I wanted his apology to make everything like it was before, but it didn't. I became vigilant and I started to watch for signs to see if there would be another. Little by little, his episodes got more intense. They would go from name-calling to storming off in the middle of the night, to him not coming home at all for days at a time. When he came home, he was always drunk and on one. As soon as he would see the bed, he'd collapse on it. He'd fall asleep with his backpack still on and his phone still in his pocket. I remember one specific occasion. He came home and he just reeked of female body spray. When he woke up, I asked him who he was with, and all he could say was, my male friend, the one I didn't like. There's a reason I didn't like that guy, and he knew why. But me pulling away from them, that was their plan all along. He would use him as his alibi, and he did, constantly actually. They had their own little thing going on. Till this day, I question the other guy's intentions. The things that I saw and the things that I heard, very questionable. One occasion in particular, he came home from being out all night. He went to bed and he put his wallet on the shelf near the door. As I headed into the hallway and opened the door, his wallet fell and it hit the ground. When I picked it up, I saw what looked like the inner tube of a tampon. I was so confused. Why would he have that in his wallet? Well, I was about to find out. Out fell a clear little baggie with a white substance in it. It was something I had never actually seen before. All I could think about was, what is it? Well, when I called out his name and he saw what I had in my hand, he reached for it and he tried to rip it out of my hand. I asked him why he had that and why he would have the end of a tampon in his wallet. He told me what it was, and your guess is probably accurate, but I didn't know what it was. He grabbed my wrists and he didn't let go. He yelled at me and told me it wasn't his and he needed it back. I didn't know why he was acting like this, and all I knew was that I was in pain. He was physically trying to restrain me in order to get it back. I dunked it in a cup as soon as I freed myself and flushed it. He pushed me up against the door and told me he paid a lot of money and his friend and he were going to be mad and they were going to make me pay. This man promised to never hurt me again, and he was literally attacking me. He didn't listen to me as I begged him to stop. I will never forget the look in his eyes. He looked lost, angry, and needy. I didn't know he was using. I was aware of the weed, but that wasn't the problem for me. He was mellow when he was stoned. But this wasn't mellow at all. He wanted to hurt me because I took something from him. And he was hooked on it. I called the police that day and he took off. He didn't get far, but he was going right back to where he got it from. By the time I realized that he was gone, my money was gone too. Another time we were getting home from running errands or something, and I recall this tall man calling over to him. Just to give you an idea, we used to live in this area that was on the bad side of town, and I worked nearby, so I knew all the local talent. It was mad sus, to be honest. We were getting out of the car when this man called him out by his name. He walked right over and asked him, "Where's my money?" I was furious. Something came over me that night, and I got the biggest attitude. I walked over to this guy. My ex, quiet as a lamb. He said nothing. I asked this guy, "What money does he owe you? I don't know you," and he's acting like he doesn't know what's going on. He looks over at my ex and tells him, "Yo, get your girl. This is between you and me." I didn't take no for an answer, and I spoke up again. I said, "What's he owe you? And for what?" He kept looking at me and my ex. Finally, my ex decides to chime in and say it was for some tree. They both looked at each other and nodded. Of course, now I've realized that he was actually the one that supplied him with the little baggie. But that night, I had to put my foot down and step in. Later on, I would befriend that man, and he would tell me everything he knew about my ex. But like any other bad side of town, there wasn't just one person that he got his supply from. There were several, and all of them knew who I was after that night. What happened that night would not stay quiet, and it would hit the whole block. He was essentially blacklisted. People knew me from working at the store around the corner and sympathized with me. They looked out for me and began to tell me if he was either trying to buy, or just being shady. Everyone turned their back on him, or so I thought. There were people that he went to high school with that were heavy in that business, so they knew to hide it from me. All but one. And even they would just come in to talk and flirt. I got onto the game that they tried to play with me. I wasn't interested for obvious reasons. I was devoted to him. He was my heart. And even though he had his extracurriculars, he was my home. I gave him more than I thought I had, and I stayed through his physical outbursts, through his addictions, and even his betrayal. This went on for years, and 3 kids later. I had enough, though. I tried to walk away, but his constant reaching out and begging for me to help him, asking me to help him get clean. I wanted to save him. I couldn't. He wouldn't. It wasn't until we moved out of that city that he left the baggie behind. It was then when I realized one vice was gone. Maybe alcohol would be next. But it wasn't. He would hide the tall cans in every corner of the house, or even leave them behind the furniture, or even under our couch. Sometimes it wasn't just tall cans, but little shots of cinnamon whiskey. I hated that smell. After working in liquor stores for almost 5 years, the smell just makes you physically ill. He thought I wouldn't notice when he was drinking, but I did. His behavior changed dramatically, and he would fight with me for no reason. Just so he could leave the house and just keep drinking without anyone bothering him. We would go months without a bad episode, and then bam. A trigger, and he would go on a slump for days on end. During those times, I would run away to my mom's just in order to avoid the drama. It got so bad. I begged her for advice, but she knew that her words would fall on deaf ears because I loved hard. And I wouldn't leave. He needed me. He made me believe that. Thinking about leaving him in our apartment, I feel guilty for abandoning him, especially when I knew that he needed me. But he also did the most to get me to leave him in the first place. Years later, on a different night, my best friend and I had made plans to hang out and watch the halftime show since one of her favorite artists was performing. Before the halftime show, we ran out and we grabbed some treats from a local business that makes antojitos, or snacks. It wasn't long before I left the house that he started to call. He wanted to make sure that he was going to get the snack he loves. While we were running out to try to get those snacks, he was running around to the liquor store nearby, and by the time we got back, he was tanked. When we got back, he was a different person and throwing a tantrum. He wanted me to go out of my way and buy him food. We had eaten dinner earlier that evening, but I was craving something since I was 6 months pregnant, and I suggested, hey, let's go get those snacks. He got upset and said that I didn't care about him. It escalated, and he must have forgotten that she was there, and he began with the name calling. Later, he goes into the room and slams the door. I'm 6 months pregnant. I had to use the bathroom. I thought he fell asleep, so I tried to open the door quietly to not wake him. And I catch him on a hookup app for gay men. I knew what I saw, and he quickly changed over to social media. I felt confused and angry because it wasn't the first time he did that. He would say he would do that because he was drunk or angry or he wanted to get a reaction out of me. But all he got was this woman feeling betrayed. Again. I urged him to leave and figure himself out. At this point, the escalation grew, and he charged at me. My best friend put herself in the middle because I was pregnant. She wanted to protect me from this man, and she had just met him a few months before. He didn't care who saw what he wanted to do to me at this point, and he thought that his behavior was completely normal, enough to where he assumed that she would side with him, but he was completely wrong. I asked him to leave, she asked him to leave, and walk off whatever that was. He left. He was drunk, somehow fell asleep in a bush, pooped his pants. He came back about an hour later with no underwear and forgot what happened. Sober, He told us what happened later on. He apologized to her and me, but that was just his mask slipping off completely. Although I had urged him for years to get sober, he wouldn't. The only time I knew that he was sober was when he went to jail, and mostly because he was there for months on end. When he was sober, he was great. I loved his company and who he was. But as soon as the alcohol hit, he was a completely different person. His family only saw what they wanted to see. I was the villain for asking him to better himself, for asking him to hold himself accountable for the choices that he was making for the sake of his family. I was selfish to believe that I could change him. I was selfish because I wanted him to be someone that he didn't want to be. All those fake promises and lies, they all fell into a place long enough for me to stay. But once he slipped, we were back to square one. I was in a vicious cycle, but I built the strength to leave. After he cheated, openly, he denied it. After I saw it, it proved it was all an act. He needed me as a place to sleep, a home, a placeholder to be exact, but he wouldn't tell me. I had to find out, and when I did, I left. I didn't let him break me again. I ended it. I kicked him out of my life, and he tried to use my kids as a method to stay. This man went as far as gaslighting me, trying to physically engage with me, but I couldn't. I felt disgusted. I lost all respect for him, and he had lost all respect for our family. I knew at that point it was over, and I needed to get away. It's exactly what I did. As I'm on my path to healing and unlearning all the negative things, I'm standing strong. He, on the other hand, he has a new supply. Like he did to me, he's using her and love bombing her. He's training her to be the naive girl that I was. I reached out to her and I tried to warn her. I showed her proof of the things that he was doing behind her back while he was asking me to take him back. He denied it all. She believed him. I hope she sees the light before it becomes too late for her. His ex tried to warn me about him years ago, and I didn't listen. Truth is, I wish I had. My relationship with this person was terrible, and I can see that now. And that's why I'm able to speak on it. I hope that he gets the help that he needs and that he finds the strength to better himself. Our relationship was hell. I let him cross so many boundaries that I had no idea. I wanted to give him the world, and I had to lose everything 3 times to see the truth. While I was trying to build this man, I was deconstructing myself. I wanted him to be my children's idol for change. But he wasn't. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Not Your Pendeja. Again, I'm Cristalina, and I want to remind you to keep pushing to be better. Fill your cup before you fill someone else's. Be your own happiness, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Please don't forget to like and share and subscribe so you're notified when the next episode drops. See y'all next week.